Hi, this is Moby. Welcome to The Fire Show. In January 2016, I sat down on a rooftop in Lahore, Pakistan with one of my friends, and he asked me what my goals were for this year. And then I rattled off 8-9 goals. One of them was to start a business in 2016. That's what I wanted to do. So I came back to Austin, Texas, came back to the US after a trip back home, which was Pakistan, and started looking at ideas. I went through one, I went through two, and I was weighing which one I would go after when I started contacting some legal resources to understand how I could start this. Well, it turns out I couldn't because of my legal immigrant status. And so I said, okay, cool. That's fine. I won't start a business this year. I will wait until things change. But there was one problem. In the middle of looking at ideas and figuring out which one I could build and how I would market it, I'd actually bought a booth 6 months in the future at a startup expo with the intention of launching there. And now, 4 months before the expo, I had no idea. I had no way to start a business, and I had a booth, and I would lose $300. So I thought, okay, what can I do? Well, first, let's do the easiest thing, which is I'm going to sell it. I tried selling it at a huge discount, and no one bought it. Cool. What else? So I changed my perspective from being about a business to a passion project. If I have this free space in which I can't start a business, I can still work on a passion project. I've done that a lot. And so I decided to do a podcast. I had listened to maybe 5 podcast episodes, and I thought, let's do this. I learned enough in 60 days, launched in 60 days. It was great, and it was one of the best things I've done with my life. After launching, after getting some traction and some press for this passion project, I was asked multiple times, hey, how do I start a podcast? How do I promote it? How can I figure out what's good or not? I wrote a post about it. I did an episode about it on the last podcast, but now I decided to do a panel. This panel was organized by Media Tech Ventures in Austin, Texas, and it's all about why podcasts are becoming a big part of the future of consumption, what makes a good podcast, and how to start one. We cover storytelling, branding, listener engagement, hosting, equipment, and promotion. I'm the one asking the questions, and I've got 3 amazing, smart people who know a lot about this space. If you enjoy this podcast, please reach out on Twitter at Fire Show Podcast, and just talk. If you hate it, hey, we can still talk. Enjoy.
Thank you very, very much. I'm not going to say anything more tonight, I don't think. I'm going to turn it over to Moby, who's been a wonderful friend and supporter of mine personally for 6 months or so now. He's the host of the Austin Fire Show, which quite literally has gotten on fire for Austin, done some exceptional interviews with a lot of the innovators in town, and is going to continue to develop that program, as well as doing some things with us. So I'll let you introduce the rest of the panel and take it from there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Yours too. How is everyone? Good. Excited? Awesome. So before we jump into it, this is going to be a conversation about podcasts, why to start one, how to start one, and I'm super excited about this great panel. And I've known all these people before, which is fantastic. So first of all, we have Todd, who is the host of the Go Hunt Life podcast, which is a podcast about that ripcord moment that happens in many people's lives at 19, 20, 30, and you're feeling like, I don't want to do this, and let me switch careers. So how many episodes in are you? 59.
This morning.
Yes, this morning. Woo!
59.
Yeah, I actually interviewed him for his show, his 50th episode. That was fun. So now Jamal. Jamal doesn't have a podcast, but he's doing something which is really, really relevant right now, which is podcast discovery. There's Google and all of that, but what Jamal is doing is building a platform where you can get smaller parts of podcasts and content in order to get the value that you want from multiple sources. And he just graduated from Div Inc., which is one of the best incubators in town. So, Jamal, welcome. Of course. And Tolly, thank you for being here. So, Tolly is like one of the long-term podcasters in town. She was doing the Austin American Statesman Shots with Omar over there for how many years?
3.5 years.
3.5.
153 episodes.
Oh, whoa! That's commitment. And recently, they started a new one with Austin 360 called "I Love You So Much," like the sign on South Congress, correct? And how many episodes in are you?
That we're just 4 episodes into.
Still, that's awesome.
Well, they were.
Awesome. So glad that you guys are here. And I'm just going to start with a general question, which is hard. Todd, why do you have a podcast? Why did you start one?
I started one for a personal reason. We were talking to a lot of people here before, like, why are you here? Are you here to start one because if you're just passionate about one thing and you want to explore it? Are you starting it for your employer because they said, come here and learn about podcasts. We want one to start for our company. Or are you trying to start one for your own business, for your own freelancing or your own company? I started mine to brand myself, to explore a topic that I was inspired by, and then have the privilege to share those stories with an audience. It's changed my life in a year, honestly. It's taken me into conversations and paths that I would have never expected or planned for. So everyone should launch a podcast. Whatever reason yours is the correct reason. Launch. So that's why I started it. And I've been able to cross promote. I'm also in marketing. So I cross promote my marketing services. Yeah. So it's gotten me into all kinds of different nooks and crannies within the industry. It has been one of the best decisions I've ever made.
So Jamal, you answered this question for me, but can you tell the audience how many podcasts you listen to a week?
So right now
and why?
You're right. So I listen to about 20 to 40, which I don't think is a whole lot. I feel like my roommate actually listens to even more. For real. Like he's wake up. He wakes me up every morning with podcasts blaring out of his bathroom. Like there's always some chatter from sun up to sundown. For myself, I go through about 40 of them, usually because I'm looking for information around a particular topic. So, for example, if I'm interested in finding out more about net neutrality, then I'm going out there and I'm looking for podcasts that have really talked about net neutrality, or podcasts that talk about the FCC or about media space and deregulation or the regulation thereof. And so that leads me through several different podcasts just so I can understand what people are out there saying, which podcasts have more nuanced perspectives. And so that kind of, doesn't sound like a very exciting thing, but we know that it's relevant. We know that this is a hot topic nowadays. And so going down those types of rabbit holes is how I end up listening to dozens of podcasts, in addition to the ones that I might just listen to for fun.
Tolly, why did you start the first podcast, Statesman's Shots, with Omar? Shout out.
Honestly, Omar and I just thought it would be a lot of fun. And we're both big fans of podcasts. We actually got to know each other doing a panel in this building. I think it was 5 years ago. We were doing a panel about online writing because we're both freelancers. Omar has written for all kinds of publications in addition to The Statesman, as have I. And we got coffee afterwards, and we were just geeking out about podcasts we listened to. And this is when podcasts were still pretty emergent. So WTF, Mark Maron's show, was one that we both loved and still love. I listened to a lot of the panel podcasts from Slate magazine, and we're just going back and forth about podcasts we love, and we thought, God, Austin really should have a culture show. And that quickly evolved into us being so presumptuous as to think we could host that show. And so we developed an idea, and we approached different media partners with it. The first is actually KET, and they were interested, but it was during a time of evolution in KET when they were breaking off into KET and KUTX, so it never really panned out. But then Omar got the idea to approach The Statesman, and while I'm just a freelancer for The Statesman, I can't speak for the media company. It's been my observation that the organization is interested in innovation in media and developing different forms of content delivery. So whenever Omar and I first set up Statesman Shots, it was kind of like our just pet project. And we just ushered guests into a room and talked to them and ushered them back out. We were having a really good time doing it. And they just kept letting us do it for 3.5 years. We eventually found that our core audience is a little bit more closer to the Austin 360 readership. So we approached the Statesman staff with that idea about rebranding to be more aligned with Austin 360. So that's what we did. We had our own incubation period from about March to right now. And we brought on a third co-host. That's Addie Broyles. You may know her as a food writer from The Statesman. Omar and I, of course, are still co-hosts. And the show's evolved somewhat in content, but mostly in format. And it has a more porous relationship with the Statesman feature staff. We have a lot of voices from both Austin 360 and Statesman features. And it's our goal to also have more community voices on the show, too. So, that's why we started it, mostly because Omar and I were trying to get our kicks.
That's a good reason. So, question for the audience here. Who here wants to launch a podcast? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, am I counting? That's about, and back with the feedback podcast right there. So about 15, 20 people. Who wants to do it for fun, just because they want to talk? Okay. Who wants to do it for a business? Interesting. Have you decided? Or are you still looking to decide? Decided. So yes. Who hasn't decided but still is cool? So, question for you guys. And Jamal, we're going to turn this into a business question too, because this is fascinating. When you made the decision or when you first had that thought, I'm going to have a podcast, how long did it take you to actually launch the first episode?
I launched in 64 days. And from the day that I registered my URL to launching my first 3 episodes on iTunes was 64 days. It was a pretty wild 64 days. But I started, like anybody here that's like, I don't know if I have a voice. Like, how do I edit? What are these images and show icons? I was there in April of just last year, 2016. I had never looked at a audio editing software ever in my life. I had talked on a microphone maybe 4 times. Like I was at literally didn't know anything. And I just dove in and became obsessed. And launched 64 days later. And so it's been an incredible ride, but that 64 days, I don't know if I would do that all over again, because I made a lot of mistakes, and I've watched like a million different videos and a million different blog posts and listened to a bunch of different podcasts, and it was information overload, and I had to decipher like what was important and what wasn't, and I put a deadline on myself that was self-imposed, which I shouldn't have, but it happened. And on June 30th, I launched with 3, and 59 later, here I am.
On a panel. Anyway, so when I made that decision too, there's a huge amount of fear, which is like, I don't know if I'm good enough. Will people listen to me? During a lot of my teenage years, my mom's friends would call and they would think I was her. So I had a big thing about my voice. But you eventually get over that. The same in business entrepreneurship. So before we jump on the same question with you, Jamal, the decision between choosing, I'm going to do this, to actually doing it, what was that for you?
So I am a business nerd, MBA, background in financial services, investment management. And so I really do think in quarters. So my answer to you is it was 1 quarter. It really was. October, November, December is when I was really like, what am I going to do? Am I actually going to do this? I knew that I was ready for a career change. And for me, what I really knew consistently was that I'm really passionate about conversations. I'm really passionate about conversations. I'm really passionate about the amount of information that we exchange with each other through panels, through interviews, through podcasts, through lectures. And so what I wanted to do was find a way to really index that information and make it searchable, make it easily accessible for us, retrievable. And so I spent some time thinking about, what direction I really wanted to go in with my career. I went to DivInc's demo day, I believe last December, and I think on that night I truly committed, like, let's go for it. Like, this is I could shop around a resume and do the whole shiny MBA thing, or I could take those same skills and apply them to what I really care about. Like, I'm gonna run my mouth anyway. Whether you put me on this panel, I'd be talking from the audience, throwing questions or whatever. And so it was a ripcord type of moment to just really determine that, look, this is what I'm gonna do. And so really, this entire calendar year has been me just thugging it out to really like build out a tech platform to facilitate discovery of really awesome talk-based content. So it took me 1 quarter of dithering, and now I'm a couple quarters in of stumbling, but here I am.
Same question, but also, how prepared did you feel launching this podcast as compared to the first one?
Great question. So 1 quarter and 64 days sounds shockingly efficient compared to the time it took Omar and I to launch our podcast. I believe it was 1.5 years from like initial conversation at Joe's across the street to actually putting up our first episode. In that time, we were developing our treatments. We were pitching it around. We were coming up with ideas for the segments, but I'm a big fan of being a student of your craft before executing your craft. So in that time and in the years leading up to it, Omar and I both listened to a lot of podcasts and internalized the type of tone we wanted. Now, that being said, I think 3.5 years of doing statesman shots better honed the tone we wanted and also better honed the approach we wanted to take to the show. And it taught us a lot about what was working, what wasn't working, how to plan, who to bring in, and how to approach guests. Whenever we first started Statesman Shots, we had Google Docs. We still have Google Docs. And I would write these like master's thesis like treatises for our guests full of conversation ideas. And we learned like maybe like 5 pages of prep like isn't so important. Maybe it can be a little bit looser. Maybe we can just have like a handful of questions and start with that. We sort of developed our own rhythm with shots. And what we found in the end was that we wanted to have this mix of culture and lifestyle content on there, but we also wanted to create a platform for other people's voices to be heard. So an example of that is Eric Webb, who is a Statesman social media editor, also known as Omar's and my favorite millennial. And he has a segment each week on the new show called The Webb Report, where he talks about what people are talking about online as regards Austin. So we knew we wanted to have like some regular people on the show besides just Omar and I yucking it up, because it was a culture show, but it felt sometimes like a little bit too loose towards the end. So although this show feels pretty new, it actually feels closer to maybe our original vision, and that it's tighter and it's better well executed because we had 3.5 years of playing around with Statesman Shots and are so grateful to Statesman for letting us do it.
Moby, can I just add one more thing?
Yes, of course. That's why you're here.
Yeah, I want to be so honest about even like that corporate mind state that I talked about, right? So while it took me 1 quarter to really determine that I was going to commit, that wasn't from day one that I had the idea, right? So I did spend a lot of time, at a really cushy corporate job with the nice golden handcuffs, with the nagging idea in the back of my mind that this is what I'd really rather be doing, or this is a problem that's really interesting that I love to solve, but I'm here and I got direct deposit and, stuff is all good. And so, I don't want to just pretend like I had an idea and it took me. No, I had an idea that I had to get confident and really believe that I could really pursue my dream and pursue my passion and still be happy and make a living out of it. And so I just want to be transparent about that. Like, no, there was time sitting at the desk like, man, this job sucks, but too scared to do what I really want to do till I got brave enough to do what I really wanted to do.
You've sometimes got to get those forcing mechanisms. I bought a booth at a startup crawl saying I would launch something 9 months before I had that date. I went through 2 ideas. They both sucked. I was terrible. And then I had the chance to do it. And you did something similar too. But, okay, Tolly, we'll start with you. What do you think makes a good podcast? I heard Ryan Holiday recently say content has to be either super practical or super entertaining. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, besides Google Docs making a good podcast, yeah, I remember when you shared that quote with me, and I think I agree with it. I think I might change the word entertaining to engaging, because when I hear entertaining, I think like people like yucking it up or being super funny. But I think of Terry Gross and Fresh Air as super entertaining, even though she's not like silly. Do you know what I'm saying? So I agree with that quote, and I also think that I Love You So Much definitely errs on the side of being more entertaining engagement than practical how-to takeaway tips. Although we are starting an advice segment on the show, so we do want to tell you how to do some things here in Austin. But anyway, sorry, what was the original question? What makes a good podcast? Okay, so I think being comfortable in your skin. Both of you guys have talked about confidence, like having the confidence to launch something. Omar's in my case, we may have had too much confidence and headed on into it before we really knew what we were doing. But having a rapport with either whoever you're interviewing on the spot or who your co-host happened to be, I think gave every show kind of an air of authenticity. Owning your content. Both Omar and I have obviously lived in Austin for years, care about Austin for years. Before I was involved in podcasting, blogging was a big part of my life. So I've always been interested in the Austin as a city with creativity as its currency. I've also learned too that a hard lesson I had to learn with podcasting was that how to retreat actually, even though it's my podcast or Omar's in my podcast, it is my interest these days to carve out a space for the interesting person we have there to do the talking and share their stuff and talk about their cool project. And just, I want to be there to prime the pump, but not be too overshadow the person in the room. So I think that being comfortable in your own skin, owning your content, and also just being aware of the kind of dynamics of your show. If we were a comedy podcast, then yeah, it would be all about our personalities. But we really want to show off Austin and the people who make it Austin. And so that's a continuing lesson for me, is how to create the space for people rather than trying to take up all the space myself.
My take, somebody gave me really good advice early on, is that if anyone that is still trying to figure out their topic, or maybe they're drilling into it a little bit, if you think your podcast is for everyone, it is for no one. You've got to niche down. And you said it, Jamal, you were listening to a podcast not about the internet. It was about net neutrality. So, and there's a market for as narrow as you want to get. But if you want to just have a podcast where you're talking about sports one time and entertainment the next, and Austin the third, and then politics, it's for nobody. You're never going to get an audience because there's too much inconsistency. And a lot of the mistakes that I made early on is that I was just so happy that somebody answered my email that they would come on my show. And then I'd get them on the show and I'd record it. And then I would listen to it and I would think, that doesn't have anything to do with really what I'm going after. Now what do I do? So come up with your topic and hone in on that topic. Even if it takes you longer to launch, you need more guests or whatever, own your topic first and niche down as narrow as you can. That can't be too narrow, but can absolutely be too broad.
As a listener, Jamal, what do you think makes a good podcast?
So I've loved listening to both of you, because you all, everything that you all are saying is so appropriate. It reminds me that I've noticed that podcasts are a few different things. Some of them really are entertainment. Some of them really are information-based. Some of them are personality-driven. Some of them are theme-based. Austin, the great people in Austin is a theme every week. For me, as a listener, I like emotion, anger or angst or something. So even Terry Gross with Fresh Air, I don't know what I call it, but I've heard people refer to it as that NPR moment when you get home and you're in the driveway, but you're still in the car because you're still waiting to hear. And I don't even know what to. It's almost like an eavesdrop type of feeling that I get. So I like that. There's a podcast called Brilliant Idiots, and right. And so, but these guys are essentially shock jocks, Charlemagne the God and his co-host, and they'll say some of anything. There's some interesting insight in there, but it makes me feel some kind of way, and that feeling is usually what's going to come out of their mouth next, right? Or Malcolm Gladwell with Revisionist History, right? He's a really great. He's dropping so much knowledge, but in a story, in a story setting, it's a storyteller perspective. So for me, it's riveting. I want you to really engage me emotionally. And I tend to like brevity, right? Which is what Big Mouf is all about, is actually focusing on little snippets of information that get carved out of full-length podcasts. But the right type of shock jock or the right type of interview can keep my ear for about an hour or so.
So let's get super tactical. We have about 10 elements of podcasts that you guys probably have questions about. Such as format, name, hosting, analytics, promotion. So we're just going to go down, and I'm going to jump in and ask a few from you. But I'm going to say an element of podcasting and your biggest advice to people who want to launch their show. So first off, and you already mentioned this, audience.
That is That is the most important part. You've got to know your audience and know what you're going after. What your topic is crucial, and you've got to build an audience around what you're passionate about. I drew on a couple of different things that I was passionate about. People that are in their 30s or 40s or 50s, and they had followed a path, and they had the comfort bubble and the job, and the direct deposit was hitting every other Friday. So that's pretty sweet. But they hit that point, that ripcord moment, like there's more. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to ripcord out and do something completely different. And it's taken me on a path to interviewing people that were just normal people, and now they hold world records. Or these employees that launched out and now they're digital nomads living all over the world and traveling, or they're entrepreneurs building a nonprofit that they're passionate about, or an app that they're passionate about that's going to change their world. And so that audience and focusing in on that each and every time is crucial. And if you interview someone and they don't fit your show, it's your show, don't publish it. Don't publish it. Just don't. Apologize. Hey, it's my bad. Sorry. Do not publish a bad episode. If it's your heart's not in it, cutting room floor. Don't worry about it.
Actually, Jamal, why is it important who wants to monetize their podcast down the line? So why is it important for a business to segment their market and narrow down?
So it's important.
And we're going to just do a minute each so that we can go to 10.
I mean, I segment your market for the exact reason that Todd said, right? If you're trying to talk to everybody, you're really talking to nobody. Resonate, right? That's what I said. I want to be riveted. I want find the audience that is tuning in to you every week or every day, whatever frequency you're willing to drop a podcast. Find the guys who care as much about, art history as you do. Like, if you're going to talk about art history, find those people. If you're going to talk about Mies van der Rohe architecture, find those people. They exist. I just said his name. I know him. I might be part of the group. But you want to narrow that in, because once you get those fans, that 1,000 true fans concept, then you've really created something of value. Once you get folks coming back over and over again, you've created something of value. And honestly, all of the podcasters, well, I won't even deal with all of the podcasters. I'll say, like, those brilliant idiots know exactly which audience they're speaking to, right? They're the shock jock on one station on the FM radio is different from the shock jock on the next station. And just to understand those differences and the different jokes, the different cultural references. I mean, what he's talking about is career, reinventing yourself, right? That's different from car talk coming on, NPR. So just know that audience and hone in on that, and you get a dedicated following.
Great car talk reference, by the way. Okay, so I think I approached this question a little bit differently. So I 100% agree with know your audience. I think in some ways, Statesman Shots was like a fact-finding mission for Omar and I about who we wanted our audience to be. We knew it would be people that were interested in Austin and the creative culture of Austin, but it's like that. I mean, those people come in all ages, shapes, sizes. So we're trying to figure that out in 3.5 years of doing our show. I Love You So Much was modeled in part on the Dinner Party Download, a show on American Public Media that is billed as the arts and leisure section of public radio. And so we knew we wanted that kind of vibe, like something lifestyle-y, something cultural. And also, honestly, we really wanted to align with the Austin 360 brand, so people that are interested, not just in what to do in Austin, but innovators and artists and creative people in Austin, as well as just things that were going on that maybe you were curious about. For example, a fake Chili's popped up on the East Side recently. We have an upcoming segment in our show this Friday talking about that. Also, we just thought it'd be a fun forum for people that you know of in Austin to show their more human side, such as Mayor Adler. We really created a true ally in Mayor Adler. We tweeted about him, and this kind of goes to audience engagement a little bit, and we tweeted about him a few weeks ago when he came on Statesman Shots, and he immediately tweeted back, "How come you guys never ask me back anymore?" And we tweeted back immediately saying, "You can literally come in anytime you want." And so he did. And he came in a week and a half ago, and he'll be on this Friday, I think, is our episode with Mayor Adler. And oh my God, he is so loose, so funny. He was on Feedback recently also. Mayor Adler is just the best. best. So anyway, one more thing I'll say on this is, as we kept doing Statesman Shots, not only did like a demographic begin to emerge, but specific listeners began to emerge. And it became really important to us to talk directly to them in tweets, on social media. There are a couple of listeners that like I talk to probably like literally every week on Twitter or Instagram. So I'll say that about audience too, is like, in addition to envisioning them as like an age bracket and gender and set of interests, like also like watch for the specific people who are starting to pop up and cultivate those, like really speak specifically to those people.
Equipment. What do we need to start a podcast? What's like the MVP equipment that you need to just get going?
That depends on if you're going to interview somebody in person or over the phone, and over phone means over Skype. If you are going to interview somebody over Skype, you have the equipment in any bag in here. It's your computer and earbuds, and that is all you need to get started. If you're interviewing somebody in person, you need a couple of microphones like this. There's a device called a Zoom that's super portable. It's about $300, and it records very high quality. If you want to interview somebody in person with very high quality stuff and not a lot of bells and whistles, for 2 mics and the Zoom recorder, it's $500. If you want to just start interviewing people over Skype, it is what you already own. Skype's free. You get a recorder you download that goes on top of Skype. You hit the button to record. You're talking to them on the earbuds. You ask them. You can either call them on the cell phone, which you have to pay Skype to call on a cell phone. If you call them directly to their Skype account, it's free on both sides. And then you're just talking to them. You're interviewing them. They hang up. You hang up. You've got the MP3 done and done. Super simple.
And just to add to that, no equipment is perfect. There were episodes where I didn't want to publish it because I just didn't think it was perfect. And I was listening to Masters of Scale. Anyone? Mm-hmm. A great podcast with the LinkedIn founder. And some of his stuff sucked. Like in quality wise, I could hear static. So you're never going to be perfect. It's all right. We'll come back. But Tolly, what was my question again?
Equipment. And here I'll defer to my intrepid co-host on the equipment that we use.
Okay. Well, starting with a very cumbersome setup that included, the traditional 4 8-channel mixer, XLR mics, the whole 9 yards. Basically, we were using whatever we could scrounge up that our photo department was using at the Statesman already. So it was a lot of found equipment, and then we added a mixer, and that was our extravagant $100 startup expense to get Statesman Shots started. As we evolved, we were actually able to get some really good H6 recorders. And now we sort of use one of those as sort of our default mixer. That has 4 inputs, XLRs that we're able to kind of control. We also do a backup to GarageBand because I'm fanatical about a backup.
Which has saved us a couple of times.
I have nightmares of losing a podcast, recording that we've invited someone to come do. So that will never happen. So we have the recorder recording, and we also have it recording to GarageBand at the same time as a duplicate, and that has actually happened. I've forgotten to hit record, or we've had a garbled SD card, and that backup has saved us at least 2 or 3 times from losing a recording. So we use some desktop mics and desktop stands, and it's a pretty mobile setup. We've actually taken that setup in a bin downtown to record stuff like at RTX and other places, and it takes some setup. You still got to hook up cables and do all that. But it is pretty mobile it's a mobile podcast studio, as we like to call it.
And the best guy in this room to talk about, I'm trying to dodge the speaker, is Buck, because he knows too much about sound. Yeah. So, okay. So I know what my show is going to be about. I recorded a few episodes. Where do I put it? SoundCloud? Can I put it on iTunes? How the hell do I start?
You do not publish directly to iTunes. You publish to a hosting platform similar to how you publish to YouTube. YouTube is your video hosting platform. Jonathan with Backtracks, there's a local company here that's a podcast hosting platform. The biggest one in the industry is Libsyn. So you record your episodes, you edit them down, you get them the way you want, and you publish them directly to Libsyn. From Libsyn, it goes to iTunes, Google Play, YouTube with an image, so it qualifies to be on YouTube, and all of the other podcast networks that are out there. And there are a million, and your guests will tell you, or the people on your website will tell you, if it is not on their preferred the way they listen to podcasts, and that's cool. Paul O'Brien told me early on, when you publish, you need to be everywhere. You need to be everywhere, but everywhere changes every month. But your listeners will tell you, hey, there's Podbean. Why aren't you on Podbean? I'm like, what is Podbean? So you've got to get on all of the different platforms, but it starts with your hosting platform. I pay $25 a month. I publish 4 episodes a month. That's plenty of bandwidth. It gives me my basic analytics that are available. So for $15 to $25 a month, you can publish your podcasts up on Libsyn. That's where they are stored, and then they just go out in an RSS feed from there.
Can you spell that?
Libsyn.
And sorry, but...
And backtracks.
Yeah, Libsyn sucks. They use backtracks. They have an advanced feature set. Screw Libsyn. Anyway. So,
Just saying.
Jamal, for you. Why do analytics matter for business?
Analytics matter for business so that you can actually measure your progress or lack thereof. And so, right? And then again, that's why it's the truth, right? But then that's why things like backtracks are really awesome, is because they're giving you advanced analytics, the ability to go in and really see, right now, podcast analytics for the longest have really just been relegated to how many downloads somebody gets. But all right, you downloaded it. It doesn't say whether or not I've downloaded a lot of things that I haven't listened to, right? So people want to know how long you've actually listened. At what point did you rewind? At what point did you stop listening? Did you share it with anybody? And so these different analytics actually help a person understand that level of engagement that Tolly was talking about. And I think that level of analytics, beyond helping you understand your own milestones, helps you become more attractive to advertisers and people that you may want to ask to support your platform.
Tolly, how do we promote a podcast? I mean, it's hosted. I've told my mom about it. It's on iTunes. Now what?
I think the first step is definitely your mom. No, God, that is $1 million question. I mean, I honestly feel like we have an unfair advantage since we come from Statesman and Austin 360, and so we had kind of a ready-to-go distribution platform. But I'll tell you some tactics that I really admire from other shows, and I think it's a mix of online and offline. I really love it whenever I hear about podcasts doing events. Slate, I talked about the roster of Slate podcasts I listen to. They are constantly doing events in cities all over the country. But also another podcast that I listen to a lot called Call Your Girlfriends. So great. They've started doing events also. And Call Your Girlfriend was truly a DIY venture between two buddies. They built it as a podcast for long-distance besties everywhere. It's kind of evolved into topical feminism, some political content too. But anyway, so I think events are just one of the coolest ways to engage with your audience, promote the show, and it's something that I personally hope that we do with I Love You So Much. Obviously, social media. And then I also think that cross-promoting your podcast, too. The feedback has been on our show. We loved it. We, not putting any pressure on, but we hope to get an invitation to be on the feedback someday. Dun, dun, dun. To be part of the all-night party that is the feedback show. We're still waiting for that invitation. That's fine. We've done some episodes. We've done an episode with one of our favorite local shows called Breakfast for Dinner Podcast. It's co-hosted by a really cute couple here in town, Nicole and Dago. They've been on our show before. They're part of the crop of emergent, awesome podcasters that have been doing this for a few years now. We went and recorded a show with them. We also did an episode with Austin Sessions, which I think is a podcast that is no longer going on right now. But in the early days of Statesman Shots, it was important to us to get to know this emergent podcast community. And so we wanted to have these people on our show, go be on their show. And so, so if any of you guys have shows in existence, come talk to us. We're really interested in knowing about it and possibly cross-promoting with you.
Awesome. Todd, you've interviewed people all over the U.S. and outside the U.S. I'm not a popular guy. How do I get interviews? How do I reach out to these people? Where do I find them?
How do you find your guests? Initially, I was scouring any sort of news article that under inspiring people that changed their lives, those kinds of things that I was searching for. Eventually, people come to you. But initially, don't be afraid to reach out to people. If they've got a cool story, even if you say, I'm on episode number 3, I'm just getting started. But this aspect of your job, career, life, something you invented really interests me. And here's what I would like to ask you about it. Would you please come on my new podcast? 90% is going to be yes. Everyone is, it's a self-promotional thing. People like talking to someone that shows a genuine interest in what they're doing, what they're working on, who they are. Don't be afraid to reach out to people that you think, man, I don't know, I'm just getting started, I'm intimidated. Just go for it. And once the nerves settle down after a minute or two, get into your rhythm and go. But don't be afraid to reach out. But Facebook is a huge path for me. And people telling me, hey, there's a cool article on DallasNews.com of somebody that I bet would be great on your show. And people tweet me directly like, you got to get this guy or this girl on the show. They just did something completely random. So eventually you get your boat on plane, and then they just start coming in, and eventually you get PR people that are trying to get their clients that just wrote a book on your show, and it doesn't fit your narrative at all. And that feels pretty good, actually. When you're to that point, you're like, whoa, now I'm having to turn away guests so they don't fit my narrative, which is great. But initially, it's just use the channels. It's so easy to get somebody through LinkedIn. My God, it's so easy. Or private message them through Facebook. There are no barriers to get to anybody. Just do it. Because if you're honest and just very genuine about your approach, you're going to get 90% yeses.
We don't have much time, but we do have time for one last thing. People here want to launch their show. It's a big commitment. Takes time, effort, money. Even though podcasts don't make a lot of money, but it does take money in the start. Just like a business, if you were to say something to someone who's just launching something in 2-3 sentences to get them going, what would you say? We're going inspirational now. It's getting cheesy.
Can we go first?
Yeah. There's one by one. No pressure.
My first thought is that you just go and launch 5 or 10 episodes and see if you like it. That's number one. And once you like it and you really want to monetize and get your audience, this is a Ryan Holiday reference in his new book, Perennial Sellers, but you take the Iron Maiden approach. And you just keep laying one brick down every single day. And you just keep at it. Because eventually you're going to find your voice, you're going to find your guests, you're going to find your audience, you're going to find monetization. But it just takes time. But it's not a daunting thing. Start with like, you know what? I'm going to do this for 2 months. I'm going to do 5. I'm going to do 10. Anybody can do 10. Do 10. If you like it, then you build a bigger infrastructure, then you build more systems, then you maybe need a website at that point, you need a new website, whatever it is, but don't worry about it. Just start with 10 and see if you like it.
Wow. So what came to my mind, because it's my inner voice talking to me, was stop making excuses and believe in yourself. You talked about brick by brick. My experience and my belief is that, and notice, stop making excuses and believe in yourself. That doesn't mean quit your job. It just means stop making excuses, believe in yourself, take some action.
Don't quit your job for a podcast.
Don't go crazy. Just don't make excuses. Leverage your community. Leverage the person sitting next to you, right? We're all in this room because there's a high degree of correlation. Like, we all care about this. And as we start to take the action, I think that the tools and resources we need sort of just like fall out. They are those bricks that fall out in front of us. But it might be the person sitting next to you, sitting behind you, the hand that you shake, the conversation that you start. We all in here love podcasts. You want to kick off a podcast? Start chatting with people. Here we go.
I really love this advice. I love both the believe in yourself and the brick by brick approach. What comes to mind for me is being really clear about what fascinates you. There's this website that my husband reads called thistothat.com. It's a website for adhesive enthusiasts. It's literally a website devoted to glue and all the many forms of glue out there, and they just launched a podcast. And people listen to it. I think it's called This to That, the podcast. So, like, podcasts are hard. A lot of the work is the unsexy part of, like, just, like, figuring out your hosting platform and trying to promote it, and also, like, building out your Google Docs. Like, for me, the thing that fascinates me is both Austin and also conversation. I really like getting to know people. Omar and I often joke about the number of times I like fall in love with a guest in a course of an hour and they walk out of our lives never to be seen again. And I genuinely want to be friends with them and hang out afterwards. And it never really happens. But the podcast for me is a joy because I get to have conversations with interesting people and I get to engage in my city in a way that otherwise I wouldn't be able to. So be really clear about what fascinates you. I think as Todd and Jamal have so aptly demonstrated, don't do a podcast because you think you should. Don't even do it because you think it'll help your career, because it'll implode if you're not interested in it. So be really clear about what fascinates you.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd, Jamal, Tolly, for today. This was fascinating, and thank you. So we've had about 20 minutes of tactical information. Ask these guys a lot more questions because there's a ton that you have. Otherwise, I hope that was helpful, and let's listen to some great music by Johnny. Or he's going to talk. I don't know what he's going to do.
Spoken word. No instruments. Okay, give it up for everybody here on stage.